Go ahead, Phil. What's up, fam? We here tonight with another show. Sorry for the delay, the quick delay, but we back. I just had to get a few things straightened out real quick. Another dope episode for y'all. I got a special guest coming. Chanel, you still there? I can't see you, like your screen went blank. Chanel, I can't hear you. You can't. I'm good. I see you. I see you now. I got you. All right, now we're about to get to the show tonight, folks. We got a dope show coming up tonight. I didn't really put too much planning in this because I kind of wanted to be off the top. We had a real good conversation when we first met at my cousin's birthday party, and she reached out and said, "If you ever do something, I want to hop on there." So, Chanel, this is it. Y'all know I usually started off with a few things. Tonight's episode is called "What Is the Cost?" And you can look at that name from so many different perspectives, that title from so many different perspectives, right? But I'm gonna kind of zone in on like the mental health aspect of it, and like however Chanel want to talk about this, whatever direction it goes, I think our conversation is going to flow. It can go anywhere from career-wise, it can go anywhere from dealing with mental health, mental illness, depression. It can the grind. It can deal with neglect or anything like that, man. Just what it looks like, what it transitions to, and just talk about some of the cost of it, man, and just bring it to reality of what we're actually dealing with. Because I came to this title because I was thinking about something myself when I reminisce on, when I think back on my dealing with bipolar. I think about like what symptoms caused back then, man. And I think about depression alone, that cost me years of like life, man. It cost me years of life that I wanted to have with my kids, my family, you know what I'm saying? Like, and just being in a hollow, dark space of fighting your own demons, man. And it's not like you out here actually showing you fighting demons. It's more in a space, man, where you just in your own head trying to make things happen. So mine was constantly working all the time, doing double shifts, doing school, grabbing the kids when they're off time, keeping myself busy so that I can get to that space, not realizing my mental health was deteriorating. And when it got to a point when it deteriorated, it was kind of too late for me, man, to kind of get up out of there on my own. And that's the place where I was probably in my 30s, and at that point, I was having a conversation with someone. They asked me like how long does it take to come out of that? I didn't know. So the biggest regret that I have is that where I am now, I wish I would have knew what I knew then now, because I wouldn't have lost so much. It wouldn't have cost me so much, right? But then again, that's another story. I'm at peace with that. Tonight, we're going to bring our guest on, Shanae, and talk about some things. I'm going to see if I can get this video up for you guys on YouTube. It's talking about some of the violence. Initially, it was talking about some of the violence in Baltimore and youth violence and things like that. So it's to me, that falls along the cost of what we're dealing with the grind, chasing the bag on us. A lot of us are adults, and we have kids at an age where they're teenagers now, they're young adults, and a lot of those kids, they can get our attention because we were so busy chasing the bag, whether that was it was rightfully so, but look at what it cost us. You know what I'm saying? Like, so now the generation that we have, a lot of them are dealing with mental illness, full-blown mental illness, and that can go from different demographics, from poor to rich. You can see that impact. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like when I speak about things and I bring this up, it's more in a space of just think of how these kids don't have any empathy anymore. They don't have what's the word, babe, we're looking for? They're numb, man. They're not getting into a space where they desensitize. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you're finding, so far this year, it's been a lot of kids getting knocked down, man, over simple stuff, and it's scary. One of the episodes that caught my attention a couple of weeks ago was the 15-year-old kids went on this middle school bus to, try to shoot the young kid on coming home from middle school, man, but the gun jammed. It was a young lady, a 15-year-old boy. The 15-year-old boy that had the actual gun, this kid ended up catching adult charges because he got another attempted murder charge the day after he tried to kill a little boy in a bus. So it makes you wonder, man, like where we are in society, and what was the cost of our grind? What was the cost of our own mental illness, our own dealing with our own traumas? Like, really, let's dig into that tonight. I think when me and Shanae met, she told me some personal stories about why she was so passionate about speaking on it. It's just, I think there's going to be some great conversations. Shanae, you ready? I'm gonna play this video. Real quick, and then we're gonna hop on. All right. Let me see. Hold on 1 second. There we go.
Behind me here, Jeff. We've been finding out new details as the night has go on. But first, you can see the scene behind me here, just behind the crime scene tape, and in the distance, it involves this vehicle. We're told that just before 9 p.m., officers responded here to the 200 block of Colvin Street for a shot spotter alert. They believe that this shooting originated nearby as a result of a dice game. At some point, they say a shooter emerged and began to open fire. Now, they cannot confirm if the victims here were shot there or in the vehicle, but either way, we have 2 shooting scenes with casings. Now, when they got here, they found a 17-year-old boy inside this stolen vehicle, shot in the head. That victim was transported to a hospital and is in critical condition. The commissioner tells us he is now in surgery and in grave condition. Meantime, while officers were here, 2 more shooting victims, a 17 and 18-year-old, walked into a hospital. The 17-year-old has non-life-threatening injuries, while the 18-year-old was shot in the chest and is in serious condition. They're also both in surgery. Now, due to the seriousness of the first victim's injury, homicide detectives are here investigating the scene. Take a listen to what the commissioner just told us moments ago.
Yet again, we are talking about people solving conflict with violence and with guns that are likely illegal and never should have been in the city in the first place. People using those guns to solve their conflict. Young people out playing dice and then either getting shot by someone else or shooting one another. That is still under investigation, so we won't say that yet, but it's under investigation. What we do know is that somebody used a gun the wrong way.
This has been a violent weekend. Yesterday, we told you a 12-year-old victim became the latest young person to lose their life in what's become a troubling trend in Baltimore. Homicide detectives are now investigating his murder. We're told in that scene, when officers arrived, they found the boy lying on the ground and he'd been shot multiple times. They also found assault rifle casings. The child was taken to shock trauma, where he later died. Of course, in both these incidents and several other shootings in Baltimore this weekend, police are looking for suspects. If you know anything, you're asked to call authorities. But for now, live in downtown Baltimore, I'm Tommy Clark, WBAL TV 11 News.
So as we all know, to live in Baltimore, I'm sure every other major city across the United States. I'm still trying to figure this thing out. Get bad with me. I think we're done. Nah, not yet. All right, there we go. Yeah, man. So like, I said, what's the cost? Because man, now look how easy murder is. You know what I'm saying? Like you hear these type of, if you live in the inner city anywhere across the United States, even the county now, you're hearing this thing on a regular basis. You became numb to it, but there's nothing we're supposed to become numb to, man. And I think, when I sit back and think about, my situation and some of the things that would bother me, I try to become numb to a lot of things that came with being from Baltimore City and growing up in Baltimore City. You know what I'm saying? But me and who I am and how I was as a kid, like raw, some of that stuff really mess with me, excuse my language, because it's in a space, man, where like a lot of people know a lot of my family, a lot of my close friends can relate to that, understand what I mean by that. When you meet my youngest son, DJ, he's 9 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like DJ at this age, he reminds me of me at that age. He's raw, he's pure, he has a good heart. He's out to please everybody. He wants to be everyone's friend, man. But then I gotta be the one to break the person who used to be like that gotta be the one to break him into letting him know how the world really is and how he needs to move, because if he doesn't, it can break him to a point where he'll no longer be here. And it's scary, not saying it in death though, but this personality will no longer be in fruition. You know what I'm saying? Like he'll be forced to defend himself, he'll be forced to be defensive, he'll be forced to not trust. And then, who knows what he has to get numb to as he gets older. And it's scary for me, man, because the things that I know and the things that I've seen have me in a space where I was telling my wife the other day, like, I don't have to imagine what it feel like if my son was molested or what it takes or how it looks. It happened to me. So a lot of things that people hear like third person, I'm more paranoid about it because it happened to me. I know how quick it happened, right? And then on the other side of it, you go to the point of, getting harassed by police and getting shot at and getting robbed and, how to back yourself down, having to defend yourself, a situation you never dreamed of, bro. Like that type of thing, it like kills you early on as a person. It kills your soul. And I'm afraid of that. But I'm teaching him now to kind of get him and my oldest son and my girls, in a way where if they ask, it's more in a space where I empathize with what they go through, but I try to build what they're going to need, not build. I try to give them what they're going to need. So I try to be the first person to show them, not all the time in extreme spaces, but they got to experience a no, a disappointment. They got to know what it is to fight for something. They got to know what it is to work for something, because I don't want them to get into a space where they fail one time and give up. I don't want them to get into a space where they fail 3 times and they feel like the world is over. They don't have a chance and they're just 25 years old just because they see other people their age at being successful and coming from different life situations. But you get a little bit of idea where I'm coming from. So I don't, like I said, these shows are more to get away from me and to shine light to, somebody else's life and somebody else's obstacles. So, let me get into the show. Welcome to another block-busting episode, a block-busting, brick wall bursting awareness episode, and some stigma blasting to the new platform. We talk about mental health in a different space, a real way. So it ain't about what you need to go out here and do. It's not about what you should do. It ain't about who you talk to. It ain't about how you should move. It's just you're hearing real live stories, man, how people get through their stuff and handle their business. And hopefully, somebody listening in can take something away from it and use, for their self or for their family members, to help with their family members. But I try to make it an interview type of style. I try to keep it how I genuinely am and just talk. So, Shanae, there's no pressure when you get on here, all right? Just conversation. All right, so I'm about to go ahead and bring you on. You ready? All right. What's up, Shanae? How you feeling?
Hello, I'm good. Hey, Devin. How was your day today?
It was pretty good, man. How was yours?
I had an amazing day. I worked today, so I had a great day.
I see you work today. You work every day.
I try to work every day.
You say you try to work every day?
Yes.
You want to tell folks a little bit about your background, what you do?
So my name is Shanae. I am a nurse, and I work at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland. And I came from a medical background. Prior to working for Hopkins, I worked for the Red Cross for many years. And so the reason I got into the medical field is because I had a niece who was born. She was 1 pound, 6.6 ounces. she was born premature. So I started doing phlebotomy because we needed to donate blood to her because, you know, she was really small. She needed blood and platelets pretty often in order to survive.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into the medical field, initially as a phlebotomist, because we started donating blood for my niece. And when I graduated high school, my mother had a brain aneurysm, and she was at University of Maryland she was there for 4 months. So it was like a balloon that ruptured in her brain, and it took 4 or 5 months to actually drain the blood out of her head. So she had to learn how to walk again, talk again. You know, they cut her from here all the way over to here because they had to open the skull in order to, you know, clamp the aneurysm so that it doesn't, you know, fill up and burst again. So I felt like the nurses at University of Maryland Hospital took really great care of her. So I'm telling you, that's why I'm a nurse today, just so I can like kind of give back. They took really good care of my mother, and she's here today. She lost some of her long-term memory, a lot of her short-term memory, but she's here today.
Man, that's dope, man. That's a blessing too, because it's the aneurysm. It's nothing to play with, right? It's just those things are fatal. I can't remember the percentage, but it's a large percentage. It's crazy because, you know, it looks like the love and the passion you have for your family and the good care that you've seen, you kind of wanted to emulate that and give it to somebody else.
Yes, all the time.
I got you. What field do you work in? What field of nursing?
I'm a med-surg tele nurse. So we get a little bit of everything. Sickle cell patients, CHF, which is congestive heart failure, scleroderma. We get a little bit of everything. Okay. So general medicine, meaning you can get patients from all walks of life. We get a lot of homeless people, a lot of mental health patients, bipolar, depression, anxiety, you name it, we get it. I like that I became a nurse in medical, you know, med surg, because you get everything. So you become a really well-rounded nurse when you see, you know, everything.
Well, you got the soul to be a nurse, period. Like, if anybody knows you, anybody know who you are, you got a genuine ass soul. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never met anybody like you in that space where you feel the genuineness. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think when we first met, I had to fight you not to pay for my dinner that day at my cousin's birthday party.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and like, you know, the way we talked about kind of the things that we dealt personally with mental health, I can tell you are very passionate about, you know, where you're coming from. Talk me a little bit about your, like, what you went through. Like you said, it sounds like those two things were some big traumas, right? To your niece and then to your mom. Like, what did you, like, not just motivating you, but what did you feel when your niece needed that help?
So when my niece was born, I was fresh. I was fresh into my adult years. Mm-hmm. But so I don't know. I always felt like she was going to survive because those NICU nurses at St. Agnes took really good care of her. Mm-hmm. However, when my mother had the brain aneurysm, that hit on a whole different level because my mother got high for many, many years. Okay. So from 3rd grade all the way through my high school years, my mother got high. So the fact that, you know, she would get high, she would get herself together, she would get high, that caused her to have the brain aneurysm, just all of that pressure from taking that abuse, from, you know, shooting up, you know, on IV, what is it? Shooting up heroin in her veins. It caused a lot of pressure to pound on her veins, causing a rupture. So, you know, the fact that I remember getting a call from Bon Secours, she was at Bon Secours Hospital, and they are asking me to make decisions fresh out of high school. And I didn't know if the decisions that I was making were the right decisions because I was fresh out of high school. So I felt lost, I felt lonely, you know, because I was her oldest child.
Right.
But yeah, like she got high from 3rd grade all the way up into my adult years. So I really feel for her.
Man, so forget going back to your niece, like with that, like how did that like impact, like how did your mom's life living how your mom living with the life the way she did, what was the cost of that for you just getting to that space? Like, so I guess what I'm asking is you had already been in a tough place mentally, right? And then I guess the niece gets sick and need the help that she needs, and then your mom ends up in the hospital needing your care. Like, how does that, like, what you go through with that, if you don't mind, like, talk about it?
So to be honest, it almost like you go into overdrive. I don't think that I really processed it while I was going through it. It did not affect me until after. if that makes sense, because it's almost like it's all or nothing. You either going to sink or you're going to swim. And I knew that I just needed my mother to be here. And I don't know, I just dealt with the entire situation. I was there at the hospital every day, you know, and the consent forms that I was signed for my mother to get blood, platelets, plasma, and all of that, you know, things like that, like surgeries. She had to have 2 brain surgeries. The first time they went in, they clamped the aneurysm. However, she still had fluid dripping on her spinal cord. So they had to go back in and put a second clamp because she was having headaches. So they done brain surgery twice on her. Wow. But I think that it was, I just went into survival mode. But I think that a lot of times while we going through the process, it doesn't affect us then. It didn't affect me until later.
Okay. So you said it didn't affect later. So like a lot of us, right, we don't even realize we're in the mix of things. I think somebody said, matter of fact, my barber told me today, he said an older person told him that you don't realize the ingredients when you're in the jar. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, but when that jar started getting full, right, that pressure started building, then you start flipping around like, what I missed? Like, how I get up here? Like, how is my head against the top of this jar, against the surface of this jar? I didn't even see it coming. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think
hold on 1 second. What's up, Ella? Hey, thanks for joining us tonight. Ella hopped in and say, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Devin.
All right. So, hey, what's up? Oh, boy. I might have to go to the phone. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. No?
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, here we go. So, yeah, man, go back to a space where every now and then I got to go in and say what's up to the guest that's speaking in, you know, to kind of encourage. And a little bit later on the show, we're going to ask a question about, you're going to ask them a similar question and give them some chance to give some feedback. But no, man, like, I don't think, like you said, that when you're in the jar, you don't realize, you know, the pressure's building for one. You don't realize the ingredients that are coming in. And number two, like coming out of Baltimore, man, that's everybody. That's damn near 75% of the people you go to school with life sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it ain't something extreme as far as drugs, alcohol, you know what I'm saying? If it's not that, it's somebody, it's all kinds of trauma all around us in that space. So you kind of just bond off of like, I'm not even talking about what you're going through at home. You just living your life the best way you can at that point. You know what I'm saying? So when you got to a space, like, what was that space like when you, like, what triggered it? What made you realize that you was in that space or that there were ingredients in that jar?
So it wasn't until I had to bring my mother home. Once she came home from the hospital and she had to learn how to, you know, walk again, talk again, and all her hair was gone. And I was there through that process to help her walk. We had PT and OT, physical therapy, and also occupational therapy come to the house, but 1 or 2 hours a day. What happens after they leave, right? Mm-hmm. So I worked with my mother through that entire process. Like, I had to help her walk again, talk again. And so the most frustrating part was the fact that she lost a lot of her long-term memory and short-term memory. Everyone who passed away, she thought was alive. So I had to tell her over and over and over again, like, my grandma died. She died in 1996. You know, Poogie died. This person died. So for me, you know, being fresh out of high school, really young, it was very frustrating that I had to tell her the same thing over and over and over and over again.
So fresh out of high school, you was like talking 19, 18, 20?
10 years old, yes. I was still in my teens.
Did you, like, how did you cope with that, man? Like, how did you find your relief, or did you in that space? Did you find it?
That's the thing. So you mentioned earlier. So my mother had a friend, and he was in her life for many. So he helped me, and he's, you know, he has passed since then. He passed 2 years ago, but he helped me through that process as well. He was her friend, meaning her boyfriend, for many, many years. So we just worked together. When I went to work, and, you know, of course, you try to cope with whatever it is that you're going on. So you work more, so you're home less, right? Yeah. Because it was almost like I wanted to run away from the problem, but I knew that I couldn't give up on my mother. So of course I worked a little more, but I still had to come home and face it. And one day I just realized, like, whatever it is, what it is, you know. And so growing up, prior to my mother having a brain aneurysm, I was so embarrassed that she got high. You know, of course, you don't want people seeing your mother out there, you know, running the streets, you know, copping and things like that. And then one day I was like, whatever, it is what it is. I'm going to do whatever it takes to help my mother get herself together. So of course she would go into treatment. she would get high again. But it didn't matter how many times she got high. I would take her back to treatment because in my mind I felt like one day she will stop.
But that's big, right? I don't think people realize that that's the most important part sometimes. Like not losing faith in somebody. Like it can get you, and if you feel like you can love from a distance to kind of maintain your mental health, right? But people don't realize a lot of the times when you hear people come out of these situations of addiction and they've been sober for years, man, you hear that somebody believed in them. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody fought for them, somebody had patience for them. So and when I go back to mental health and I think about just me and my situation, like the level of illness that I was at, man, dealing with my bipolar, like I was at a place where a lot of people don't come back from. Like people think I'm playing. Like if they talk to my wife and heard the stories that my wife had versus seeing me and knowing me, they would be like, hell no. You know what I'm saying? But the most important part of that was having, her, my mother, my aunt, and everybody support me in this space. But they're like, hey, I apologize. I didn't know anything was going on. But what do you need? You know what I'm saying? Like when I get into a space where I would relapse into some of those severe depressions and things like that, the mental illness not going, and I'll start smoking smoking grass for like intensely for weeks and months. The frustration would get to a max, but it was never in a place where it was like. It was never in a place where like your life is over. It was never in a place where I don't believe in you. It was more in a place where I believe in you, but what you're doing is hurting me. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I believe like when you talk to people like that, you're speaking to their soul, and you can't do nothing but connect. And whether they're struggling with addiction or not, no matter how good they feel, a lot of addicts that I've spoken to, man, said they gave their life to God while they was high. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's in that space, man, where you just like, you get a combination of God, you get a combination of support, family, and then also like my wife, my grandmother used to say, like, when you get tired, you'll get tired. You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of time understanding the frustrations that come with that type of lifestyle is understandable, right? And some things you gotta have boundaries, and you most definitely gotta put space where it is. But I believe that when someone comes to you and tell you they want to get help, that you should never turn your back on them. You know what I'm saying? Like as far as like helping them, you might say, all right, we did this 3 times now. I'll support you through the process. This 3rd time, you got to go fill the paperwork out. You know what I'm saying? To see where they are and see if it does anything to them. But it's funny you said that, man, because the way that you did that, you were so young, and you see a lot of kids express that frustration and behavioral issues, no matter anywhere from, I guess, middle school up to being a young adult in like mid-25. You see it expressed in like violence. You see it expressed in like selfishness. You see it expressed in 100 million different ways that if you look around the city, you see it, man. So big ups to you, Chanel. Like I could tell, like I can see you doing that because I know your spirit. You know what I'm saying? And like everyone that I've talked to, like I met you last year, right? But I have friends that have known you their entire life. Andre grew up with you. You know what I'm saying? And throughout the process of having you on it and talking to you, I see that we have friends that they've known you. They grew up together. You up the village. You know what I'm saying? So it's just in a space, man, where I commend you for doing that. Like they think they say it's hard to find a good soul come out of Baltimore, man. But they obviously ain't from there. They said that. You know what I'm saying? But nah, that's crazy. So you get through all that, right? And then you get to a space where now you're in a space where you're trying to figure out what you want to do. By this time, do you have your own kids? Do you have your own family? Like, what that look like for you?
So I didn't have my own kids until after my mother finally got herself together. My mother was my kid. You know what I mean? I chased and I ran behind my mother as if I would run behind a dude. So I can remember being a kid, and I believed in Santa Claus for a really long time in my mind. But you know how you pray for certain things for Christmas? Like I just prayed for her to get herself together. I didn't want anything else but my mother because I felt like my mother was the backbone of me, for me, my sister, and my brother. So I don't know, like my goal was to always just, but I did not have kids until I was 25. I had my daughter at that time. My mother had gone to the Turk House right here in Baltimore. I had taken her to Philly a couple of times. She did not get herself together until she went here to the Turk House right in her backyard, which was, pretty confusing because I thought sending her away, she would get herself together, but sending her away, she came right back here to Baltimore and she done the same thing over and over again. It wasn't until she went to the Turk House, literally right in her backyard. And from the Turk House, she done 30 days there. And after that, she's been clean for 20 something years now.
Oh yeah. Look at God and look at you. Exactly. Look at the work you did. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's amazing, man. That's dope to hear. So when you got out of that space, did you automatically know you wanted to go to nursing school? Like even being in phlebotomy, right? Did you? I know me being a pharmacy technician, it got to a space where maybe 5 years in, I knew I wanted to be a pharmacist and started pursuing that. Ella says, "Congratulations to her. That's great." You see the comment on there?
Yes, thank you, Ella.
So what made you get into that space where? What did that space look like for you? Right, you're a phlebotomist now, and now you're hopping into. All right, you feeling like you want to dive deep into the medical field. Like I said, when I hopped in the pharmacy, it was kind of the same thing. We're like, oh, this ain't too bad. I'm not tired. Like I kind of like what I'm doing. I can see myself learning more. What that look like for you?
So when I was working for the Red Cross doing phlebotomy, we collected red cells, platelets, and plasma, and also granulocytes. So from the Red Cross, I made a ton of money. I made a lot of money, I would say, at that time. So I opened up an assisted living. I purchased my first house at, I think I was 23, 24. And I had my first child at 25. So I didn't jump right into nursing school. I knew I wanted to go to nursing school, but I knew that would be a sacrifice. So I wanted to make money first so that I can set myself up. Because everyone always told me like, oh, if you go to nursing school, you can't work, right?
Yeah.
And so I ran my assisted living for 10 years before I actually went to nursing school.
Wow.
So once I got into nursing school, I really couldn't work. I really couldn't. I worked full time, but for Johns Hopkins, I was a clinical technician there. But I had to stop the assisted living because assisted living require you to be like, you have to be there like way too much. Okay. So I rented the house out to someone else. They ran the assisted living. And from there, I just worked full time and I went to nursing school.
Oh, yeah?
It took me many years to get there. Like I had to mentally build myself up because I knew it was a possibility that I may not be able to work.
Okay. But you're still grinding. That's not something you sneeze at, having that assisted living home. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially at your age. Like, that's crazy, Chanel. Like, that's amazing. And you go through, so what did nursing school look like for you? Was it challenging? Was it a breeze? Was you smiling every day?
So nursing school was very brutal. It was brutal because I never knew how to study until I got into nursing school. Like I didn't know you don't know what you don't know until you get into it, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to study every single day. You have tests often. So the information that you learn today, you have to actually process it, study it so that you're able to pass the test, because next week you'll learn new content and you have to pass that test. In order for you to move on to the next sector or the next semester, you have to pass. So I worked full time. I went to nursing school. You know, we had to be there. I had class 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I also had clinicals. Okay. So nursing was tough because I feel like out of all people who took a hit, my kids took a hit because I really didn't have time for my kids, right? Mm-hmm. And so with that being said, my children was acting out. Like my oldest daughter, she was acting out at school, and also my youngest daughter. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, like I was trying to fight between the two, but I knew that in order for me to finish something, I had to sacrifice something. And I sacrificed a lot of time with my kids. Mm-hmm. I don't regret it because I felt like nursing school will put us in a place where I'm able to provide for them. You know, I'll make more money, of course. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I took a hit, especially with my kids acting out. So it was crazy because I really never saw my kids. And I remember like at my penance ceremony, I told my kids that they were not ordinary kids. They were extraordinary because they were with me and they rolled through that process, you know, with me.
Yeah, facts. Crazy. But I mean, any nurse to tell you that, you know what I'm saying, like that, or anybody in the family to tell you like how rigorous that any nursing program is. You know what I'm saying? Like, where did you go again? I think I might have missed.
I went to Howard Community College in Columbia.
Oh yeah, I hear they got a reputation out there, man. So like that's big for you and your family to get through that space, because that was a huge challenge and a huge obstacle, right? Where the challenges of nursing school alone, outside of a family, make you say, you know what, I try again in 3 years. You know what I'm saying? Like that program is serious and it needs to be. But although that was your purpose, your cost was like what you said, that relationship with your kids. So you kind of understood where I was coming from earlier, where like you grinding so much that you don't even realize that your cost is, the cost is one of the, I didn't anyway, the cost was one of the things that I valued, right? And but I was so focused on what I had to do, what I needed to do to get my kids a better life and to get the obstacle, like I didn't think about anything else until I couldn't do anything else. You know what I'm saying? So it's so like, do you mind talking about a little bit like the cost of that when it comes to like one of your I think you said the oldest was wilding out. Like you going to school, like what was the cost of that for her? What is she like? How does she express that?
In a way that so my daughter was cutting. Yes. And so I had to admit her into the hospital. So it was kind of embarrassing for me because the same people who I worked side by side with, like I had to take my daughter there and they had to treat her. So like I remember like breaking down in school because I got a call indicating that she said that she wanted to commit suicide. And when I came home, I found a letter under her bed with a butcher knife. And I told her to lift her sleeves up and I found out that she was cutting.
Man, but that's something she was doing for a while, or did you catch it like pretty early?
So she had been doing it for a while because she had old marks along with new marks on her arm.
Have you ever noticed it, or have you ever questioned like when you like in the past when she had them pretty well?
Listen, I was so busy, right? I never really, because you know when you're running and you're grinding, you just see them. You can't even process anything else. So that's why I sacrifice like a lot of time with my kids. I sacrifice time, quality time. The probably times they wanted to talk to me, I probably was so exhausted, so tired. And I never had time for them. I never had time for them.
That's real. You barely have time for yourself in nursing school, man. But it's like, how did you cope with feeling all? Because you're a mom. It's not like, so you hear like dads struggle too. Society would think that men don't struggle in the same way that women do, but women have a different level of connection with their kids, right? So as a mom, like coming through the things that I know going through your childhood earlier had to put some type of motivation in you to be a different mom, right? So now when you start seeing like some of the impacts of, you may not have seen her cutting, but I'm sure you may have felt like some similarities as far as like, her anger or frustration or the things that she did express back then that you kind of caught, like, that sounds like me. I wonder where that's coming from or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So like, what, like how did you cope with all of that and stay focused on nursing school, Chanel? Like, what the hell?
It's so crazy because to be honest, I really don't know. I can remember just like breaking down, like, and I lost it, right? So I remember driving home. Sometimes you just feel so numb. You don't know what you feel nothing. You just feel numb, right? And I remember like talking to her grandmother. Her grandmother is really, really, really supportive. And I remember her like hugging me really tight and telling me that everything was going to be okay. But every day that I got into my car, I listened to something positive. Like I would put on T.D. Jakes and listen to him, right? And I'm telling you, no one knows what you're going through, especially when you're in nursing school and you feel like you're all alone. But every time I would listen to T.D. Jakes or put him on, or, even every day on my way to school, I would listen to him. He got me through that process. And I prayed so, and I'm not a church person. I don't go to church, but I talk to God all the time, but T.D. Jakes, listening to something positive every day, he got me through the process. I'm telling you, because I used to always tell myself, Shanae, there's no way God is going to bring you this far for you to stop right here, right? And I was like, the devil is always at work. Like, there's no way that I had to compromise and sacrifice so much for me to stop right here. There's no way. I lost my grandmother while in nursing school. I was in 2 car accidents. And I remember telling myself and telling the devil, like, in order to stop me, you're going to have to kill me. Because, I graduated December 19th, right, for nursing school. January 21st, I had rotator cuff surgery, and I was out of work for a year, right out of nursing school. I was getting shots in my arm in order for me to get through nursing school because my rotator cuff was so messed up, I couldn't even move it. So I had to get shots in my arm in order for me to have mobility in my shoulder.
And you couldn't do the surgery then because you're going to miss too much time in nursing school.
I remember my doctor name is Dr. Rue. He works for Mercy Medical, right? He was my surgeon. I remember going to go get shots in my arm. He said, Shanae, if I'm not giving you another shot. And I was like, Dr. Rue, you give me this last shot, I swear to God on everything. As soon as I'm done nursing school, I will get this surgery.
Good.
Feel as though nursing school is causing this. I said, no, this was caused from the car accident, right? So he was like, I'm telling you, if you do not get this surgery, he said that he was going to dismiss me as a patient. So I graduate on the 19th. I got my surgery on January 21st.
Man, talk about stress, man. Like that, like you had a lot of different pressure coming from a lot of different angles. I thought it's funny because my wife has a similar story to yours, but you hear all the time, like you can't make it through nursing school with the family. You can't make it in nursing school working a full-time job. But man, if you go sift through a nursing program, especially when I know for sure in Baltimore, like 50% of them women held down jobs, took care of multiple kids, took what do they call caretakers of their families and things like that. And they're making it look so easy, man. And it's it's a blessing to see, because to have women like that still going to nursing, you have to have a heart of care. You got to have a genuine heart of care and want to take care of somebody, make somebody good. Because just think about somebody recently, the woman in PG County and her daughter chopped her mother up. You don't have no damn love for nobody if you could do that to your mother, because she's trying to keep herself safe from your bull crap. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when you find women today, man, in that space that go have that story and still willing to take care, I think people forget, like, although you show the strength, that you still have mental battles. You know what I'm saying? Like, it goes back into that space where now you hear, like, I don't like hearing I'm a strong Black woman because I want to feel weak sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly. So yes,
you know what I mean? So it's bringing a whole new perspective to, like I said, this platform that I'm talking about, it's bringing perspective to, like, nah, like, yeah, you can call this stuff mental illness, right? But nah, bro, like, this is life. This is like, that was your life. My wife's life was her life. What I went through was my life. You can't give me medication to fix that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the medication prescribed wouldn't help you effectively get through any of that. You got some good things that take the edge off, man. But when it starts getting to a space where you let your depression get the best of you, your life get the best of you, some of that medication hollows you out. You know what I'm saying? Like, and to do what you guys have done, you can't be manipulated by something like that. You cannot be your inner spirit cannot get intercepted by medication or block how medication how it works. You can't block who you are, because then you wouldn't be who you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm ranting, but no, man, it's amazing to me that I see, like, when you hear the news saying you can't do that, you can't do this because you got to work, you can't do this because you got to go to school. No, bro, it's people doing this stuff every day. That's the old days. That was the old 70s, 80s where you couldn't do that. These are new age people. These are new age women, new age students. Like, these are kids that are, and young adults that are overcoming major obstacles that should have done them in years ago. You know what I'm saying? So, no, man, it goes back to showing, like, God uses what was meant to break you as your stepping stone sometimes. And I hope anybody in the middle of that, going through that, graduating nursing school this year, will have graduated. Just found out that they're not graduating this year because they missed the credit or they failed. They didn't get some points on what was it? What do y'all have to do? It's not the internship. What is it called?
The NCLEX.
The NCLEX. What do you guys do to study for the like your practicing, like the hospitals y'all go in? What is that called? I'm having a brain freeze.
Say that one more time, Evan.
Clinicals.
Oh, clinicals, yeah.
Clinicals. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just crazy the amount of responsibility that you guys juggle in that space, man, and it's amazing. So I don't call y'all strong Black women. I call y'all amazing women. You know what I'm saying? Like, strong women. If anybody's in that space where they feel like they're not making it, or they failed their clinical, or they missed a few points in the test, and you got to take the whole program again next year, or whatever you got to get next year, don't lose hope, man. Go ahead and just grind it out, get it over with.
Do it. I would tell do it. Please do it.
How long have you been a nurse now? My bad, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, so if you give up, like, what else are you going to do, right? So if you fail a test, like, go 2 times stronger. If you fail nursing school, the second time I just feel like without failure, there would be no success, right? If everything is always handed to you and everything is so easy, everybody would be doing it. And my best friend always tell me, Shanae, you always do things that is so challenging. Like, how are you going to nursing school with kids? Like, why do you always want to open a business where as though you have to be there in order for your business to run? I realized at the end of the day, because that's what I love to do, right? That's my makeup.
Like, but the crazy part about all that, right? In between all that, you remembering the order stuff for your friends that they said they liked, and then you running and dropping down to that job, and then you running off to a chick. Like, do you go out to help somebody else? It's like how, Chanel? Like, you're not fueled by something normal, man. You got something deeper in you.
It's crazy. I don't know. Like, for me, I think that considering I don't know. A lot of times it's to fulfill a void, right? Because a lot of times you want the support you didn't have, or you want the love, you want the attention, the affection that you did not get. So for me, I think it's a fulfillment that I can actually give back now for things that I did not receive when I was younger. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
don't know. And I'm a big giver. And oftentimes those who give the most receive the less, right? They receive, I'm telling you, it happens all the time. It happens all the time, but I'm okay with that. But if I was thinking about this driving home today, and I asked myself a question: if I could change my life, would I? And I was like, no, absolutely not. I wouldn't change anything, because oftentimes when I have patients who are addicted and they are going to rehab and things like that, I am able to share with them the things that I have gone through, and that helps them get through that process, right? And they're like, oh my goodness, you went through that? Like, yes, like my mother got high, and she was, they'll ask me, well, how do you think my kids feel? I don't know, but I know how I felt as a kid. And I would share that with them. A lot of times when people come into the hospital, they come in for whatever disease process. Oftentimes they need a therapist. They just want to sit and talk. And I give them that time. I'm telling you, you'll have 80-year-old men, 75-year-old women coming in talking about their childhood, how, they wish this would have gone differently, or they wish their loved ones, brother, sister, whoever, would have loved on them more. They felt like they, were the outcasts of the family. A lot of times they just need someone. They need therapy.
It do, right? But I don't think people realize like how much you learn working in the hospital about life, man. You know what I'm saying? Like being an employee in the hospital and seeing what people actually go through, it kind of makes your day get into a space where you just like, you know what, man? It kind of puts it, when you hear somebody going through now what you went through in that space, it kind of like, it put me in a space like, all right, well, that wasn't for me. Maybe this was for them or somebody in that. Let me just give them what got me through. And you start to feel like, man, like me, especially now, like I used to ask God, like, why the hell did I go through all that? Like, what was the point? What could anybody possibly use for all that, right? But then when I think about who I am, like, man, I genuinely want to help somebody, right? I genuinely want to help somebody get through. I listen to people. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's in a space where I've learned alone, not only in the hospital, but my own journey in mental health, man, that like people just want to feel validated, man. You know what I'm saying? Like people just want to express what they've been feeling. They just want to trust you in a space where, like, if I tell you this, you're not gonna get that far. Okay, you've been through this too. How you get through that? Like, what? Like, bro, you got that? You know what I'm saying? Like, so you don't feel like this, and you can. I feel all that, but this is what I do to get through that, and I feel just as intense as you did when you were going through that space. When you're going through it, but it's not going to be that way for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so. It's crazy, man, because you see things. I know in the hospital, especially when I was at Johns Hopkins, you don't see the average illnesses up there. You know what I mean? Like, you see, even if you work in a different department, you're gonna walk past somebody with something you ain't never heard of. Like, what the, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna see a kid, even just walking to the hospital, you're gonna see a 4-year-old kid pushing an IV pole with some chemo, not chemo, but some kind of hydration on it after his chemo. You know what I'm saying? And then you get to a space where you see his father, who looked like he had knocked somebody out with 2 hits, barely walking behind him because he hate to see his kid in that space, man. So it puts you in a space where, like, I don't understand how people can live how they live today and not be like you. You know what I'm saying? Like how I don't understand how you can be in a space where you're so numb that you can just walk up and kill somebody over a dice game and not realize somebody's father, son, mother, brother. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just scary to where we are in a space where in society where you can call it mental illness, you can call it life, man. It's running rampantly in the wrong spaces. You know what I mean? Like, and it's scary. But getting back to, I always say the cure of that is love, man, and genuine people, because you feel genuineness, right? You feel it. Like, when somebody wants to hear you talk, it feels 100 times better than you walking to somebody and they rolling their eyes, or they looking like, you could tell they're looking like, what this about to say? You know what I'm saying? Like, back then, bro, like at a young age, it bothers you because he was like, damn, like, what? I just want to talk. But now it's kind of like, all right, stay in your lane, dog. I stay in mine. It's no harm done, no foul. I respect your feelings, or however it is, or however you look at it. But I don't have time to focus on that, man. Like, I genuinely am trying to be in a space, and it's been like that from childhood. And it's been in a space like, all right, dog, you want to beef? Hey, man, I got all the means to go do what you want to do in that space. But from what I've seen, I want to get far away from that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you sitting here woofing and doing, if you clearly want to be gone, I will be gone. if I make one phone call, bro, everything on your side is gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's in that space where growing up in the city, it don't give you, especially from Baltimore, you can't enjoy life normal as a normal you. You know what I'm saying? Like the things you experience from the drugs, like it's just tough, Shanae. So I commend you on getting through everything you got through. I commend you on maintaining who you are throughout all of that, and trusting that, you know, it was something bigger on the other end of that. You know, like the way you are now. You're a nurse now. You've been a nurse for how long again?
5 years.
You've been a nurse for 5 years now, and you play around with some entrepreneurship too. Like, you want to talk a little bit about that?
So, so the most recent thing. So we do have a scrub line that's kind of, you know, at a halt right now. However, okay. I do have a laser hair. It's called Silhouette Aesthetics. So we offer laser hair removal. So I'm working on some other things, and I would like to do fillers like Botox and also IV hydration. Oh, yeah. So IV hydration for those who, whatever, if you fatigue, you want to lose a little bit of weight, or you just need some fluid because whatever reason, or you know, you just got
hey, don't beat around that one, man.
Hungover for sure. Just so I can get you back to your good old self for Monday morning, so you can be very productive at work for sure. So laser hair. The reason why I got into laser hair is because I remember going to the dermatologist and I kept getting a boil under my underarm. And the reason why I kept getting a boil because I kept shaving. So I didn't know then, but I know now when you shave and the hair try to puncture through the skin, and it can't puncture through the skin because for whatever reason, maybe the hair is too coil, too curly, or whatever the case may be, it causes a secondary infection. So, you know, when you get a boil, it causes, of course, peeling and things like that. And so I remember going to the dermatologist and they cut it out, right? And so, but it was
they cut it out. They didn't tell you to put hot water on it, and
they cut it. They numbed me and they cut it out, but it kept growing back. So, but if you get to the root of the problem, which is laser hair, the hair, you know, it will not grow, so you won't have that problem. So I remember going to the dermatologist, and they told me that my skin was too dark to get lasered because the machine could not determine which one was pigment and which one was hair because my skin color was too dark. So I got into laser hair removal for that very reason. So we are located at 9110 Philadelphia Road, Suite 210. And so we offer laser hair removal, but for all skin types, 1 through 6. 1 meaning really, really light white, and really, really dark.
Right. What's dark? What's the number for dark?
6. 1 will be, you know,
1 through 6. I got you.
1 through 6. So, you know.
So with the laser treatment, like, what is it actually doing? Like, is it browning the hair? Is it opening up the skin to allow, like, how does that work?
So it targets the hair itself. So it goes deep, but beneath the surface of the, you know, it goes beneath the superficial part of the hair. Okay. And it destroys the hair from the root. So have you ever noticed, like, a lot of women will grow hair under their chin, right? And they'll go get it waxed.
Yeah.
I know you have seen that. They'll get it waxed, but it'll keep growing back. That's because they aren't getting it from the root. And a lot of men will grow like hair bumps in the back of their head.
Yeah.
So laser hair will treat that. It will, because if hair can't grow there, the bumps won't surface, right? Yeah. So the whole goal is to kill the hair follicle so that the bumps will not come to the surface. So therefore your skin will be nice and smooth. So that's the whole goal. And I always do things because something happened to me and somebody told me that they can't. So I'm going to show you that I can, right? So I got into laser hair for that. Right? I'm telling you, because no one wants a boil, you know, to constantly.
No, they hurt, man. They hurt.
Yeah. Absolutely. So for that very reason, I got into laser hair.
No, that's dope, man. That's dope. The conversations really get swung off, but I want to make sure, like we're kind of touching on everything that I have written down and make sure that I kind of keep the conversation going when someone gets something from it, right? But I think a lot of a part that I didn't really go too deep in was once your daughter got when she started cutting, like, what did that process look like? Like, you took her to the hospital, you said you were embarrassed, because you had your coworkers, but how did you get at peace with that? And then what did that role look like for her? Is she better? Did she get better? Is she, you know what I'm saying? Like is she still struggling? Like if you don't mind. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I don't mind.
okay.
And so, okay, so when we were in the process, so she stayed there for maybe a week or two. And
Okay.
so I told them that I did not feel comfortable with her being discharged until we had a plan. I needed some type of intervention, right?
Mhm.
And so we were waiting for a bed at Shepherd Pratt. They told me she may be on the waiting list for months.
Okay.
And I said, okay, so what is the plan? What is the intervention we need to implement? Some type of intervention because I don't feel safe. You know,
Right.
she may harm herself, she may harm someone else.
Right.
And so what happened was they got me in contact with a therapist. And so
Okay.
before I allowed them to discharge her from the hospital, we were able to make an appointment with the therapist. So from there, she started seeing a therapist on, twice a week. And I don't know, I just felt like she got a little bit better. And so, she has her ups and downs, times when she feels a little depressed. And I keep asking her, like, I don't know what her she told me, I just had this conversation with her last night. She said she holds on to things too much and she internalizes it. So if someone does her wrong, or she felt like she was really loyal to someone, and they turn back on her, and it gets her in this really deep place. And it was so crazy because last night I tried to use, reverse psychology. And I said, well, how would you help me get through my process if I told you? And I named some things that I was going through. And so she said, I don't know, because I need you to help me get through my process. And I said, but I'm one of your friends, right? And so I had her hold my cell phone. And she held it. And I said, I want you to hold the cell phone the entire time that we are talking. And so she held it and she held it and she held it. So we talked for about 20 minutes. So she done like this. And I said, no, you can't have assistance. You cannot get any help, right? So then she leg. I said, no help. You got to figure this out. And so she said, mine's getting really heavy. And I said, so if it's getting heavy, what do you want to do? She said, I want to let it go. I said, let all of that stuff go. You know what I mean? And I said, it's so crazy. And I asked her, when you eat certain things and then you poop it out, do you flush it down the toilet or do you hold on to it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I said, all the poop, the other word for it. I said, do you hold on to it? Do you put it in a bag and save it? She said, no. She said, I flush it. And I said, I know, because what you ate today, you flushed it down the toilet, right?
Yeah.
And I said, some things you just got to let go. So we are still working on her, right? And one thing about her mother, I'm never giving up, right? I'm on the like white on rice, and I'm never giving. That's my child. That's my baby.
Yeah, facts.
Don't give up on
it. But that's facts, right? Because it's a lot of times, man, for a lot of people, it's something you got to teach them to live with. You know what I'm saying? Like as far as like what letting go looks like for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm sure you hit that on the nose with her, but people don't realize, like, it's not what letting go looks like for her. It's not the same for you. It's not the same for her next person next door. It's all about, okay, for me, letting go to a place where acknowledging kind of like, all right, this happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, the other side of that is, all right, this is the result of that or the impact of that. All right, what can I actually do from this point on? And it's important for me to go through that space because it puts me back into that space of right now, right? It gets you back into the space where that stuff happened. This stuff might happen, but what's happening right now? Nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's getting to the space where I had to learn, but getting to that space was work, right? But the crazy part about that is, even now, even though I'm content in this space, as life goes on, it builds. You know what I'm saying? So where I am now, I can't get cocky enough to think that I'm never going to get to that space again, right? It's now I'm confident to know that I have the skills to get out of it. But if it happens, all right, let me go through the same process over again and rebuild again. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's dope the way you show her that, man. And how old is she?
She's 16.
She's 16, right? You did something that's simple that they use every daggone day. Some usually these kids got in their hand like all day. Their arm don't get tired until you actually holding it, and now you're thinking about the weight of it, right? And now that's totally different because now you're thinking about that weight. You can't not ignore like how your arm is feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
And to use that analogy on it, I think that's dope. Especially with getting a teenager to understand just how to talk. Because if anybody that has a teenager, deal with a teenager, these kids do not talk to you unless they absolutely trust you, parent or not. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's you having that bridge there with her to communicate is big, and I think that's going to help get her through the rest of her life. It's just in that space where what's the song Better Days? I can't remember the singer, but that's her version of Better Days. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't understand what you're dealing with now, but you will eventually. But while you're going through it, try to enjoy life just a little bit. Try to not so wonder so much. Try to not so take the pain and out of the pain, let it go, keep going. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think that's the ocean there. And I think that, like, normally throughout the show, I usually ask people you know, I usually have to pull the show to a place where you talk about your highs and the lows, but this in this conversation, you talked about, you know, your triggers, you talked about, you know, where started this all and where you come from, where your heart from. Do you deal with any depression now? Like, do you have a battle with it, or you project yourself to be?
So I don't think that I have depression. I think that I have really bad days. I don't think that I've ever been at a place where as though, other than my childhood, you know, just acting out because I wanted my mother to get herself together, right? You know, because we do that. Like, so if something is going on really, really bad, you want to bring attention to yourself just so they can, but that doesn't work. It doesn't matter what you do. If you try to kill yourself, hang yourself, if a person is out there getting high, they are not going to get themselves together until they are ready, right? I don't care who you are. But for me, the one trigger I do have is when I have my patients come into the hospital and they remind me of my childhood, right? And so for me, a lot of times that make me relive my childhood all over again. So prime example. So if I get a person that's coming into the hospital and they start to withdraw, right? And they start to do little things that I know my mother used to do, like, you know, just like begging for pain medicine and, you know, begging for money and things like that. It kind of triggers. And so I'm so aware of it now, whereas though if I'm not having a great day for whatever reason, I'll ask not to have that patient because it's going to put me in a place where as though I don't feel happy that day. And a lot of times I wake up pretty happy, right? So I don't do it often. I just do it because I know at the end of the day, I'm a nurse, and no matter what patients I get, I should be able to take care of them. However, I do feel like my mental is everything as well, right? So I have to make sure I'm good and save myself, give myself my oxygen before I'm able to save someone else, right? So if I'm really having a bad day, whether it's with my kids or I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed, I am totally aware of how I'm feeling. So I'll ask if someone else can take those patients for that day.
So you have a high level of emotional intelligence, is what you're saying.
It affects me in a way where it's only when I'm feeling not so good. Like if I'm not feeling really, you know, like 100% that day. Because sometimes I'm really strong and I can take any patient, right? I can take, it doesn't matter if they alcohol withdrawal, you know, they detoxing, whatever. We get some that are really aggressive. We get patients that try to fight on us, throw urine on us, whatever the case may be. Some days I'm really, really strong, but I have come to the realization that I'm not strong every day and I'm okay with that. And the days that I'm not so strong, I just ask someone else if they can take those patients because I feel as though the way I work, they feel as if I'm so strong and I can handle those patients, but they forget that I'm human, right? I'm human and I have feelings, and some days I'm not as strong as others. So I'm totally aware of that now, and I make it known, and I'm very transparent about it. And I'll let them know, like, listen, today is not a great day for me, and I would like for someone else to take the difficult patients.
But that's the part of emotional intelligence that I was kind of highlighting, right? Because a lot of people don't know the level of emotional intelligence it takes, right, to get to that space. But a lot of us don't know why we feel the way that we feel. So in turn, like a lot of nurses, I've encountered nurses myself that having a bad day and take it out on you and make you know that they don't want to take care of you. But what I imagine your day looking like is, all right, you're coming in, you're checking the room, you're like, and then you go to your what is the nurse lead, the team lead, and then you tell them like, hey, look, I don't want to take this patient because I don't feel well, and it's like that. You never take that out on your patient. You constructively communicate that this is a good day for you and that you don't even you have the boundaries to not put yourself in that position, right? So like within our conversations now, I'm saying like, man, like you ever been to a therapist? You ever like talk to a therapist to have that type of culpability?
So that's the thing I have. And so, you know, we have I have a ponytail, right? I have someone who does my hair, your makeup, nails, all of that. I think that your mental, like you should get a doctor for this first. This should be first. We have our OBGYN, our dentist, your regular PCP, your primary care, your nail technician, your hairstylist. Like your mental, if your mental is off, everything else follow. And a lot of times, if you can't keep your mental healthy and strong, the first thing to go is your appearance, right? You can kind of tell when somebody is not in a good place.
Yeah.
So I talk to one often because I think that is very much necessary. I think that's the first provider you should have is a therapist.
I agree. It's hard to explain, but the amount of weight that lifts having a non-biased person that doesn't have any investment into your life or what you're dealing with, they can outright. I think I like talking to Maaan Chanel because I can say the wildest stuff and she'll look at me like, effing right. You know what I'm saying? You just like, you feel that? You know what I'm saying? It's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just, and I laugh all the time because my therapist, she's a young white lady. But I've had young black men, I have men black men my age that made me feel totally like, hey, bro, like, what you taking this personal? I'm here talking to you. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, it's dope that you're saying that because it goes back to show you that, man, like, no, that having a therapist, like, it's hard to find a good one, right? But when you find that good one, man, and you find somebody where, like, you tell them that story you've been going through for the last time, and they give you that answer, where you like, you get it. And they hit you with, like, you were wrong. And you're like, oh, what? Like, for real? You know what I'm saying? Like, it kind of put things in perspective where they're not judging you. They're not trying to hurt you. They're trying to help you see what you normally would see if you didn't have your feelings involved in this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So no, I think that's dope, man. It's a reminder that anybody else out there, like, go get you a therapist if you don't have one. They're hard to find, so start looking now. You know what I mean? So let me think about what other questions I got to ask you, man, as far as throwing this conversation. You've talked about so much. You talked about your highs, you talked about your lows, you talked about, like, talking to you, Snare. I can tell that your life, you're not acting like you have intentional balance with your life when it comes to certain things, right? And it sounds like the part that you struggle with is your heart. Like, you can't, that's your gift and your curse. You know what I'm saying? Like, as far as, like, you said that I give more than I receive sometimes. You're not saying that in a space. Knowing you're not saying that in that space, but you're saying the actual fact. It goes down to the space, like, check on your strong friend. You know what I'm saying? Because the one that's giving that energy ain't getting it back. And when I'm on my weekdays, I'm handling it by myself. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, nah, I think so. At the end of the story, man, at the end of the conversation, I'll ask some questions like, if you were on the way to the top of your mountain, you know what I'm saying? Like, if God told you stand at the top of that peak and yell your victory, like, what would you yell?
You know, it's so crazy. I'm not even really sure. I don't know. I just would say, like, I've made it. You know what I mean? Like, thank you. Like, I don't know. Like, today where I am, I'm just so grateful. But just like the little things, like, I think that I'm grateful because oftentimes with the profession that I have, I walk into the hospital and there are people who can't walk. There are people who can't even get up and brush their teeth, right? There are patients who don't have fingers. You know, there are patients who don't have toes, things like that. There are patients who can't even eat. Like, we have to place NG tubes in them for them to receive their nourishment. So for me, the fact that I can get up every day and to just do normal daily activities like walking, talking, I can eat and I'm just grateful. You know, because the story could be so different. Like, I could have been the one, you know, on drugs, you know, shooting heroin. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I was saved. And I would just say thank you. Like, thank you, God. Like, because the fact I'm able to help people, the fact that I'm here to talk to my kids and walk them through their process. And I feel like with my kids, you know, sometimes my oldest daughter, you know, she give me a little run for my money, but I always tell her, like, I'm your cheat sheet. Use me while I am here, because I may not be here every day, right? I may be, tomorrow may be my day, but get out of me what you can while I'm here, because I'm your cheat sheet. I didn't probably been through half of the things that you want to experience. So ask me the questions. If you need someone to talk to, come talk to your mother. You know, I don't know. I would just be, I'm just grateful and thankful, to be honest.
Nah, that's a dope response, man. It's real. So it's the next thing I was like, so driving home in your car, you're alone time, like what's one thing in your mind that has you concerned about society? Like what's the one thing that stopped you like, yo, like we hit it in the wrong space?
Yeah, like to be honest, like I feel like, especially with the younger generations, I feel like they really don't fear anything, right? And it's just scary to see, because at the end of the day, you can be pumping gas and somebody can stick you out, right? So I don't know. I just feel like social media and things like that has taken over their minds and things. So for me, it's just scary to see the younger generation. I just feel like they don't have any fear. So when you don't fear anything, it's like you're willing to do anything to anybody.
That's facts.
Well, I just wish that, like we could, I don't know. I just feel like I hope that I can give back one day and, change a few kids, like have them turn their lives around if they don't really negative things.
How do you have an idea how you would do that? Just one idea. You don't have to go and like, what's the main thing you would say? You know what? If I did this, that probably would curb that. If you haven't.
So let me tell. So I feel like it's so crazy. So I feel like if because we are adults, right? And so we are adults in this adult body. However, we still have childhood trauma that stem from childhood. So if I can do anything, I would try to reach as many kids as I can, because those kids are one day going to become adults. And just because they are adults, we can't expect them to know the things that you should know as an adult, because, they may not have healed from that trauma or that traumatic experience or whatever the case may be. And if I can save more kids, then, they'll be a little bit more better mentally as adults, because just because you see an adult doesn't mean mentally they may be stuck at 7 years old, 8 years old, whatever the case may be. I don't know. For me, I just want to help as many kids as I can, because those kids will one day become adults. And you see so many adults that still deal with childhood trauma.
Fact. So what would be your helping method if you had to pick one?
I don't know.
That's a good question, right? It's a tough one, man. Like,
it's a great question.
It's just so many different things these kids need. Like, I think, I kind of had the same thing going into it, right? Like going to work with kids, like what could.
So if I can be honest, the one thing what I've learned that works is loving a person and helping them through that process.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a love child or a love person can pretty much kind of, filter and get through, some things, not everything, but a lot of times what we as people, because it takes a village to raise not just children, everyone, including myself. A lot of times we're lacking love and attention and affection. You know what I mean? Because if you think about why kids act out, is because a lot of times they don't have structure. They need attention. They don't have that love. They don't have that. They're acting out for a reason.
That's fact. That's a big one too. I think a lot of when you look at kids' behavior, some things like I think it's important, like you give them kids that love, you know what I'm saying, but also exercise boundary within reason. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's how you deal with the kid from, let's say Montgomery County isn't the same way you deal with it in Baltimore City, because these kids are two different environments. You know what I'm saying? Like, but if a kid in Montgomery County acts similar to how a kid would act in Baltimore City, you're not acting out of a space. Like I don't come out of a space of teaching them in a space where you're actually going to like, hey, bro, like, you pressing me like that, what come with that? No, it's coming to space like, depending on your energy, we're going to talk. Depending on your energy there, we're going to talk again. But if you coming at me, you running at me like you trying to do me harm, bro, as a man, I'm not going to turn my back and run on you, because it's not going to happen on the street. If you going to come with that energy, you're going to get met with a stern, like, bro, I look, dog, I don't want to touch you. I really don't. But if you touch me, there's a camera here, there's things in your space that if you get that energy, I have to protect myself. And you're not saying that in a space where you're trying to beat the hell out of a kid. You're saying that kid to the kid like, shorty, look, normally I wouldn't even waste my time with it, but you look like you're pretty serious right now. I will have to disengage you. I will have to hold you down to the police get here. I will have to hold you tight or something like that. If you come with that energy, I'm not going to talk to you like you're a 6-year-old kid. Like you don't know what you're doing. You're very much aware of what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's important, like what you said, like even dealing with kids in that space, some of my kids that I respond in that way can tell you how I love them and nurture them too, right? They can tell you like, hey, bro, I was out of pocket at that moment. So like, no, but Coach Dad, cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's in that space, man, where it's just, you have to be in touch. And to be in touch with anything, man, you got to be in touch with yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, And one of the biggest things I've seen in the school is that a lot of these teachers talk to these kids and demand respect from these kids, but they don't give these kids an ounce of respect. And then when the parents pop up on the phone, they're talking to the parents like they're the best teachers in the world. They try everything, but the kid won't. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just like you said, like that's the part where you see adults dealing with that inner child, because what this kid just said to you hurt your feelings. It hurt that inner child in you, and you don't know how to respond as an adult to say, you know what? Let me just go ahead and pass that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so let me teach you why you shouldn't say that. My son is handicapped, son, bro. You know what I'm saying? My mother would be like, when you taking and put into it, well, they gonna walk away with their heart, bro. But they hear you and they gonna go back to their cousin who kind of live in the same, and then walk away with a different perspective on life. Everything isn't you should do this because I said so, or it's not like that. Everything is different for everybody walking life, and we don't know what anybody's going to encounter. And like you said, a lot of these kids, once they've shown the attention they're searching for, they completely change their behavior. They completely become the person that they are and be comfortable with themselves and not looking for action in that way, or not questioning themselves about why they don't get it from whatever place they're getting it from. But no, that was real, man. This is one of the realest conversations I've had on here, Shanae, so far. And I appreciate you for hopping on and being a guest. I think I touched on everything I was supposed to effortlessly when you're in. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was dope conversation, man. I appreciate the transparency.
No problem. I was, I'm so I was so happy that I can join tonight. I was rushing home to get here. And to be honest, like I didn't have Google Chrome on my computer. I'm like, oh my goodness, like I can't log on. So I'm happy that I was able to join tonight.
Really, you didn't have? I didn't know it required that. I know it said it from the phone, but I didn't know it required that on the laptop as well. I got to look into that and make sure. Thank you for telling me that.
Yeah, my daughter helped me download it. So I was trying to get on, but I couldn't because I didn't have Chrome. But,
Okay.
She helped me get through that process. I need her help. She need my help. We help each other.
Exactly. So you said you got two daughters.
I have two, a 16-year-old and an 8-year-old.
8-year-old?
Yes.
Nice. I know I only got asked. I already know you're a dope mom. I already know your kids walk all over you, and then they see the Emerson side, the village side come out every now and then because it's there. Even though you show this personality, I know what comes with that. It's like,
you gotta be stern sometimes, for sure. Most definitely.
That's funny, man. We gotta do it again, Shanae. I appreciate you for coming on. Like I said, the level of transparency, like I walk away from a lot of my shows knowing that people take something from me, and it's not even that I think about if someone is watching or not. I think the dopest part is that when I enjoy the conversations, right? And then when somebody hit me up on social media and be like, hey, I got something, I'm like, you watched that? You know what I'm saying? So these things are more like, these conversations are more like for me, you know what I'm saying? Like as far as how I cope with what I deal with, because it's a reminder that for me, like I'm not the only one dealing with this type of thing. I'm not the only one. And the conversation is I'm not the only one that kind of has that heart. You know what I'm saying? And although it's been kind of tainted and moved and shook and shaken, at the core, I still am who I am. And like I say, at your core, you still you still are who you are. You know what I'm saying? So again, thank you. We're gonna reach out again and see if we can do a part 2 of this or something different.
Yes.
Something. We gotta do something.
Thank you for that. I'm telling you, so many men, they could never do what you do, right? The fact that you are so transparent. The very first time you opened up to me, we were at where were we? The crab spot.
We was at Mike Fish House or something like that. I think.
Was it Mike's? Nick's
Fish House. Yeah, Nick's Fish House. Yeah. So that conversation came out of nowhere, bro.
Out of nowhere. I'm super duper proud of you. We're gonna look back on this 10 years like, do you remember that first video? Now you're gonna be so big and so popping, right? But keep up with the work. I am super duper proud of you. And anytime you need me, just hit me up. I'll log on.
Like Shanae, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Like maybe hopefully one day I see what everybody's saying, but I ain't no rush. As long as somebody gets something from it, man, I'm good. Ella, thanks for commenting all night and engaging with us. So I see you on the next show, Ella. My bad, Shanae. What we about to say?
No, I wasn't saying anything.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and end it, man. Thank y'all for joining in the Tap In tonight. Thank my guest, Shanae Parker.
Good night.
I'll see y'all on Sunday at 8:30. Talk to y'all later now.